The council delegation landed on Earth on a cold morning in Geneva. Chairman Vexithari stepped off the shuttle first, followed by 20 other council members. Rulmoth was there, looking uncomfortable. Kalith came too, her blue-green feathers ruffled by the wind. They all wore environmental suits adjusted for Earth's atmosphere. Human security guards guided them to the old United Nations building. It was a historical structure, preserved from the days before humanity reached the stars. The building was simple compared to the Grand Council chamber. There were no floating seats or holographic displays, just wood, stone, and glass. Ambassador Kang Doyen waited for them in a conference room. The room had a long table and comfortable chairs. Windows showed the city outside and the mountains in the distance. It was peaceful, quiet, nothing like the imposing council chamber designed to make visitors feel small. The council delegation sat down. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Chairman Vexithari broke the silence. Ambassador Kang, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer a formal apology. We were wrong. We let arrogance blind us to your value. Not your value as tools or servants, but your value as equals. We treated you shamefully. For this, we are deeply sorry. Doyen nodded slowly. I accept your apology. But apologies are just words. Words are easy. Now we need to discuss actions. Choyasul, sitting beside Doyen, opened a folder. She was the one who had trembled with anger 7 months ago in the council chamber. Now she was calm and professional. We have prepared a list of terms. These are not negotiable. If you cannot accept them, this meeting is over. Rulmoth shifted uncomfortably. He was used to being the one making demands. Now he was the one listening. First, Choyasul said, humanity receives full voting membership in the council. We have veto power on any matters that directly affect human worlds or interests. Several council members looked like they wanted to object, but Chairman Vexithari nodded. Agreed. Second, the council will establish a reparations fund. This fund will support human education, research, and development programs in perpetuity. The amount will be substantial. We will provide the exact figures later. How substantial? Rulmoth asked nervously. Substantial enough that you will remember the cost of disrespect for generations. Choyasul replied coldly. Agreed. The council members looked at each other. Finally, Vexithari nodded again. Agreed. Third, all human worlds and colonies are completely autonomous. The council has no authority over our internal affairs, none. If you have disputes with humanity, you bring them to negotiation tables, not council votes. This was a major concession. It meant humanity was effectively independent while still being a council member. But the council had no choice. They needed humanity more than humanity needed them. Agreed, Vexithari said. Choyasul continued. Fourth, the council will implement true collaborative technology sharing. Not the old system where you took our innovations and gave nothing back. Real partnership. Equal exchange. Agreed. Fifth, the independent coalition receives full representation in the council. All 14 species will have votes equal to any other member. The era of major powers dominating minor species is over. This caused murmuring among the council delegation. The small species had always been treated as junior members. Giving them equal power would fundamentally change council politics. Kalith spoke up. I support this term. It should have been this way from the beginning. After a long pause, Chairman Vexithari agreed. Yes, it is acceptable. Ambassador Kang Doyen leaned forward. One final term. This one is non-negotiable, and if you refuse, we walk away and never come back. The council delegation tensed. What could be more significant than what they had already agreed to? The council will issue a formal declaration, Doyen said, his voice steady and firm. This declaration will be taught in schools across the galaxy. It will be displayed in every government building. It will be read at every council session. The declaration will state that no species is inherently superior to another. That age does not determine worth. That evolutionary timelines do not create hierarchy. That respect is not earned by how long you have traveled the stars, but by how you treat others. The room fell silent. This was not about power or money or territory. This was about changing the fundamental philosophy of galactic society. It was about humility. Chairman Vexithari looked at his fellow council members. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked thoughtful. A few looked relieved, as if they had been waiting for someone to say this for a long time. Ambassador Kang, Vexithari said slowly, if we agree to this, We admit that our entire social structure was built on a false premise. We admit that we were wrong about everything. Yes, Doyen replied simply. That is exactly what you must admit. Because it is true. The chairman's forearms trembled slightly. Then he stood up, all four arms spread wide in a gesture of submission. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I agree to all terms. We will issue the declaration. We will change. We must change, or we do not deserve to survive. The other council members stood as well, one by one. Even Rulmoth, who had lost the most from these agreements, stood and bowed his head. The reforms took 2 years to fully implement. The council was restructured and renamed the Galactic Assembly. Every species had equal representation. The declaration was written and distributed to every world. Human engineers worked with other species to rebuild the hyperspace relay network. This time it was a true collaboration. Humans taught others their techniques and learned new approaches in return. The new network was better than the old one, built by many hands working together. The independent coalition became a powerful force in the assembly. The small species that had always been ignored now had voices. They pushed for reforms that helped everyone, not just the powerful. Park Hajin retired from military service and moved to New Sol Colony. He was an old man now, nearly 60, but he wanted to see how the galaxy had changed. Governor Nam Ji-hoon invited him to visit the farms. They sat together in a garden watching children play. Human children ran alongside young aliens of a dozen different species. They were learning together, growing together, building friendships that would last a lifetime. Do you think they truly learned? Nam Ji-hoon asked, watching the children. Park Hajin touched his cybernetic arm, thinking about all the years he had fought for the council. Some learned. Some will always believe they are superior, but enough learn to make a difference. And the young ones, the children out there, they are growing up in a different galaxy. They will never know the old arrogance. We did not conquer them, Nam Ji-hoon observed. No, Park Hajin agreed. We just stopped enabling their disrespect. We walked away, and that was enough. On Earth, Ambassador Kang Doyen gave a speech at the first session of the new Galactic Assembly. The chamber was different now. All the seats were at the same level. Nobody looked down on anyone else. Humanity walked away not out of anger, Doyen said to the assembled species, but out of dignity. We refused to accept disrespect. We refused to enable a system that exploited us, and in doing so we taught the galaxy a lesson that no war could teach. He paused, looking around at the faces and forms of 47 different species. Relationships must be built on mutual respect, or they will crumble. Power does not come from domination. It comes from knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. We did not need to fight you to prove our value. We simply removed our support and let you see what you had lost. The assembly rose in applause. Even Chairman Vexathari, who had insulted them so terribly, stood and clapped his four hands together. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy with weapons or threats. They had transformed it with patience, dignity, and the simple act of walking away. They had shown that sometimes the most powerful statement is silence. Sometimes the strongest action is refusal, and the galaxy would never forget the price of disrespect. In the years that followed, when young aliens learned history, they studied this moment. They learned about the day humanity walked out without saying a word. They learned about the cost of arrogance and the value of respect. They learned that true strength is not about domination. It is about knowing your worth and having the courage to walk away from those who cannot see it. Humanity had saved the galaxy by refusing to save it on someone else's terms. They had changed everything by simply knowing when to say no. And across the stars, in 1,000 languages on 1,000 worlds, a new saying emerged. When someone was treated disrespectfully, others would say, "Remember the humans. Know your worth. Walk away if you must." It was the lesson humanity taught the galaxy, and it was a lesson that would echo through the ages. Ambassador Kang Doyen sat in his office on Earth and read Chairman Vexathari's message. It was only 2 words long. Please help. For a long moment, Doyen did nothing. He just looked at those 2 words on his screen. 7 months ago, the Council had called humanity primitives, children pets. Now they were begging. The situation would have been funny if people were not dying. He typed a response. 1 word. No. He sent it and turned off his computer. There was work to do, but it was not work for the Council. It was work for the people who needed help. The Council received his response and went into crisis mode. They sent more messages, dozens of them. Some were formal requests. Some were emotional pleas. Some tried to offer payment or trade deals. Each message received the same response or no response at all. "They are going to let us fall," Rulmoth said, his voice filled with disbelief. "The humans are actually going to watch us be destroyed." "We destroyed ourselves," Kaleth replied. "We just did not realize it until now." The Void Marauders attacked again. 2 more worlds fell. The Council military tried to mount a coordinated defense, but it was like trying to fight with one hand while the other hand worked against you. Every species had different communication protocols. Supply chains were confused. Orders were misunderstood. The humans had been the glue that held it all together. They had translated. They had coordinated. They had made sure everything worked smoothly. Without them, the Council military was just a collection of individual fleets that barely understood each other. Admiral Hanbora watched the reports from her command center on Earth. She was old now, nearly 70, but her mind was still sharp. "The Marauders will hit the mining colonies next. That's where the real wealth is. Should we intervene?" her second-in-command asked. "Not yet. Wait for the order." The order came 3 days later. Chairman Vexathari made a public broadcast across all galactic channels. For the first time in Council history, the chairman appeared on screen looking defeated. His chitinous shell seemed duller somehow. His forearms hung limply at his sides. "People of the galaxy," he began, his voice translator making him sound almost human. "The Council has made grave errors. We insulted humanity. We dismissed their contributions. We called them names that no species should ever call another. We were wrong," he paused. "Across the galaxy, billions watched and listened. Now we face destruction, and it is our own fault. The Void Marauders attack us because we are weak. We are weak because we drove away the ones who made us strong. Humanity, if you are listening, we beg you, please help us. Not because we deserve it, but because innocent people are dying. We will accept any terms you offer. We will make any changes you require, please." The broadcast ended. The galaxy held its breath. Ambassador Kang Doyen appeared on screens an hour later. He had aged in the past 7 months. There were new lines on his face. His hair had more gray, but his eyes were still sharp, still intelligent. "Chairman Vexathari, you called my species primitives. You called us pets and children. You said we were useful laborers but not worthy of equality. You laughed at us when we asked for respect." The galaxy watched. Some species felt shame, others felt fear. "But humanity is not like you," Doyen continued. "We do not abandon innocent people because of political pride. We do not let civilians die to prove a point. Human fleets are already moving to defend Council worlds. Not because you asked. Not because you apologized. But because people need help and we help people. That is what humans do." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "But understand this. We are not coming back to serve you. We are not your laborers or your pets. We come as independent allies, and when this crisis is over, things will change." The Council as you know it is finished. The broadcast ended. Across human space, fleets mobilized. Captain Jang Wubin stood on the bridge of the EDF Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. He was a young man, only 35, but he had proven himself in battle many times. His crew trusted him completely. "All ships report ready," his tactical officer announced. "Then let us show them what humanity can really do," Jang Wubin said. "Set course for Kronos Gate. That's where the Marauders will strike next." The human fleet consisted of 200 warships. They were sleek and powerful, built with technology that most Council species had never seen. For years, humanity had kept their true military capabilities secret. They had been patient, cooperative. They had seemed weak because they chose to seem weak. Now they showed their real strength. The Battle of Kronos Gate lasted 6 hours. The Void Marauders brought 300 ships expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found the human fleet waiting for them. The humans fought with precision that amazed everyone watching. Their ships moved in perfect coordination. Their weapons struck with devastating accuracy. Their shields absorbed damage that would have destroyed Council vessels. But it was not just technology that won the battle. It was tactics. The humans used strategies that the Marauders had never seen before. They set traps. They used the asteroids around Kronos Gate as cover. They divided the Marauder fleet and defeated it piece by piece. When the battle ended, 200 Marauder ships were destroyed or captured. The remaining 100 fled back to the galactic rim. The human fleet had lost only 15 ships. Captain Jang Wubin broadcast a message to the fleeing Marauders. Tell your leaders that humanity protects these worlds now. If you return, we will be waiting. We are done being patient. We are done holding back. The marauders did not return. They had learned their lesson. Across council space, species watched the battle recordings in awe. The humans had been hiding incredible power the entire time. They had possessed weapons and tactics that could have made them galactic conquerors. But they never used them for conquest. They used them only to protect. Choi Il-sul, who had been there at the original insult 7 months ago, now coordinated humanitarian relief. Human ships delivered food to starving worlds. Human doctors treated wounded soldiers. Human engineers began repairing the damaged relay stations. But they did not work through the council. They worked independently, coordinating directly with local governments. The council structure was being bypassed completely. Park Ha-jin, the military liaison with the cybernetic arm, met with council defense officials. "We will help you rebuild your defenses," he told them. "But we will train you properly this time. You will learn to work together without needing us to translate. You will become strong on your own." "Why help us at all?" one official asked. "After what we did to you?" Park Ha-jin looked at his cybernetic arm, remembering the battle where he lost the original. "Because I lost this arm defending a council world. Because human soldiers died protecting your civilians. We did not do that for your politicians. We did it for the people. We still do it for the people. Politicians come and go, but people matter. Always." 3 weeks after the Battle of Kronos Gate, a formal message arrived at the council chamber. It was from Ambassador Kang Doyen. The message was short. "The crisis has been contained. Now we talk about the future. Send a delegation to Earth. We have terms to discuss." Chairman Vexathari prepared to travel to the human homeworld. For the first time in galactic history, the council would come to humanity. They would not negotiate from a position of power. They would listen, and they would learn what respect really meant. The hyperspace relay in Sector 9 exploded at 400 hours. Not a violent explosion. Just a quiet failure that sent the entire station into darkness. 40 ships were stranded between star systems, floating in the void with no way to continue their journeys. It took 3 days to get them all to safety. The Council's emergency response team investigated. They found that a critical component had overheated and melted. The component was a human design, something the engineers had created to make the relays more efficient. The Council engineers had never fully understood how it worked. They had just maintained it according to human instructions. Now those instructions were not enough. The component needed to be completely rebuilt, and nobody knew how. "Get the human engineers back," Rulmoth demanded at the emergency council meeting. "Pay them whatever they want." "They are not responding to our messages," Chairman Vexathari replied. His voice sounded tired. "Then make them respond." "How?" Councillor Kaleth asked. "Should we invade Earth? Should we force them at gunpoint to fix our mistakes?" The chamber fell silent. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but they were all thinking the same thing. They could not force humanity to do anything. Not really, not without starting a war they might not win. On Earth, Shin Yuna studied economic reports in her office. She was young for such an important position, only 32 years old, but her mind was brilliant. She could see patterns in numbers that others missed. "The Council's economy is contracting at 4% per month," she told Director Yoon Tae-ho. "Trade volume is down. Shipping is slower. Costs are rising. If this continues for 6 more months, several council worlds will face serious economic depression." "And they still think we will come back begging?" Yoon Tae-ho asked. "Apparently." Shin Yuna smiled. It was not a kind smile. Pride blinds them. They built their empire on our labor, but told themselves they were the ones in control. Now they are learning the truth. In the 4th month after the walkout, the food crisis became undeniable. Prices had tripled. Some council worlds were rationing meals. The human agricultural colonies were not selling to them anymore. Instead, those colonies were trading with independent systems, with the small species that the council had always ignored. Governor Nam Ji-hoon managed the farming colony called New Seoul. It was a beautiful world with rich soil and perfect weather. The colony grew grain that could feed billions. Before, most of that grain went to council worlds. Now it went elsewhere. "We have received another request from the council," his assistant told him. "They are offering triple the old price." "Decline," Nam Ji-hoon said. Politely but firmly. "Our contracts are with the independent systems now." We honor our commitments. They say people are going hungry on Thalvex III. Nam Ji-hoon felt a flash of anger. Human doctors worked on Thalvex III for years. They died there from scourge fever trying to help, and the council called us pets. Primitives. If people are hungry now, the council should explain why they insulted the ones who fed them. The assistant nodded and left. Nam Ji-hoon looked out his window at the fields of golden grain. He did not enjoy watching others suffer, but some lessons could only be learned through pain. On Thalvex III, the scourge fever epidemic was spiraling out of control again. When the human doctors left, the disease was manageable. Now 3 months later, it was spreading. The local doctors tried their best, but they did not have the experience or training. The mortality rate climbed to 40%. The council sent desperate messages to Earth begging for medical assistance. They went unanswered. Then in the 5th month, something surprising happened. 3 human medical ships appeared in orbit around Thalvex III. The council's planetary governor rushed to meet them. "Thank you for coming back. The council will pay whatever you ask." Dr. Park Soman stepped off the first ship. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and steady hands. "We are not here for the council. We are here for the sick people. We don't need payment, but you must coordinate with the council authorities." "No," Dr. Park Somin said firmly. "We work independently. We treat patients. We save lives. We don't answer to politicians who call us pets." The human doctors set up clinics and started treating patients. They worked 20-hour days. They trained local staff. They brought medicine and equipment. Within 2 weeks, the mortality rate dropped to 10%. When they were finished, they packed up and left. They did not meet with any council officials. They did not ask for recognition. They just saved lives and went home. The message was clear to everyone watching. Humanity would help people, but not governments that disrespected them. The council was irrelevant to their mission. By the 6th month, 14 minor species had established direct diplomatic relations with Earth. They formed something they called the Independent Coalition. These were species that had always been overlooked by the major council powers. Now they had their own network with humanity at the center. The coalition did not oppose the council. They simply ignored it. Trade between coalition members flourished. They shared technology. They helped each other with medical and engineering problems. They built their own relay stations using human designs. A parallel galactic society was emerging, and the council was not part of it. Rulmoth was panicking. His trade empire was collapsing. Ships were not using his routes. Merchants were not paying his fees. His wealth was evaporating. "We must take action. We must show strength." "What action?" Calith asked. "Should we attack human colonies? Should we seize their ships? That would be an act of war. Maybe war is necessary." Chairman Vexthari raised a hand for silence. His compound eyes looked tired if such a thing was possible for his species. "I sent intelligence agents to observe human military exercises last month. Do you want to know what they reported?" The council waited. "Human ships are more advanced than we thought. Much more advanced. Their weapons are more powerful. Their shields are stronger. Their tactics are sophisticated." The chairman paused. "They were holding back the entire time they worked with us. We never saw their true military capabilities." The chamber was silent. The implications were terrifying. Humanity had been strong enough to defeat them all along. They just never showed it. They had been patient, helpful, cooperative. And the council had called them primitives. "They could have demanded equality through force," Calith said quietly. "They could have threatened us. Instead, they just asked nicely. And when we said no, they walked away. They did not fight us. They simply removed their support and let us face the consequences." In the 7th month, sensor stations detected movement at the galactic rim. Ships, lots of ships. The Void Marauders were gathering. The pirate fleet that humanity had helped defeat 20 years ago was back. And they were bigger than before. The Marauders had been watching. They had been waiting. They knew the council was weak now. The relay network was damaged. The military coordination was poor. The economy was struggling. It was the perfect time to attack. The council tried to organize a defense. It was chaos. Different species could not coordinate properly without human communication systems. Supply lines were confused without human logistics. Battle plans fell apart without human strategic support. The Marauders struck. 3 council worlds fell in brutal raids. Millions died. The council military fought bravely, but they were disorganized and slow. Chairman Vexathari sat alone in his chamber. He had run out of options. Pride had brought them to this moment. Arrogance had cost them everything. He activated the communication system. For the first time in 7 months, he sent a direct message to Ambassador Kang Doyun. It was not a formal diplomatic message. It was not filled with political language. It was simple and desperate. Please help us. The first message arrived 3 days after the human delegation left the council chamber. It was polite and formal. Chairman Vexathari requested a meeting with Ambassador Kang Doyun to discuss future cooperation. The message said the council hoped there were no hard feelings about the vote. The message went unanswered. The second message came 2 days later. This one was from the council's secretary office. It asked when humanity would send representatives to the next infrastructure planning meeting. Human engineers always attended those meetings. Their input was valuable. That message also went unanswered. By the end of the first week, the council had sent 12 messages to Earth. They received only one reply, and it came from a low-level diplomatic assistant. The message was brief and polite. It said that humanity was conducting internal reviews of all its galactic commitments. No timeline was provided. On Earth, Director Yoon Tae-ho sat in a conference room deep under Seoul. Around the table sat the most important humans in the government. Admiral Han Bora was there, her uniform decorated with medals from 3 wars. Lee Min-ho, the chief infrastructure engineer, studied reports on his tablet. Kwon Ji-woo from intelligence listened carefully to everything being said. The council thinks we are pouting, Yoon Tae-ho said. They believe we will come back soon asking to be forgiven. Let them believe it, Admiral Han Bora replied. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. While they believe we are weak, we can move without them noticing. Lee Min-ho looked up from his tablet. The relay stations are the key. We built them. We maintain them. Without our engineers, those stations will fail. Not immediately, but within months. Then let us begin there, Yoon Tae-ho said. Quietly. Properly. Everything by the rules. In the second week, human engineers working at hyperspace relay stations across the galaxy submitted their resignations. All of them. Every single human engineer sent a formal notice. They thanked the council for the opportunity. They cited personal reasons or family matters. They were professional and polite. The council scrambled to replace them. They brought in their own engineers, trained members of other species who thought they understood the systems. The relay stations kept working. Everything seemed fine, but small problems started appearing. A relay in Sector 7 took 3 seconds longer to establish connections. Another relay in Sector 12 needed to be reset twice a day. These were minor issues. Annoying but not critical. The council's engineers said they would fix them soon. In the third week, human medical staff left their positions. Dr. Kim Yoonji had been working on Thalvexa 3 for 6 years, treating patients with scourge fever. The disease was under control now, but it required constant monitoring. She packed her equipment and submitted her departure paperwork. She trained the local staff as much as she could in 2 days. Then she left. Across the galaxy, hundreds of human doctors did the same thing. They were not angry. They did not complain. They simply fulfilled their contracts or resigned properly, and then they went home, the council noticed. Of course they noticed. But what could they say? The doctors had not done anything wrong. They had the right to leave their positions. Rulmoth called an emergency meeting. The humans are abandoning their posts. This is unacceptable. They are not abandoning anything, Counselor Kalith pointed out. She was an avian with feathers that shimmered blue and green. She had been one of only 7 council members who voted to give humans equality. They are resigning. They are following all proper procedures. It is coordinated, Rulmoth insisted. They are doing this to hurt us. They are doing this because we insulted them, Kalith said quietly. We called them pets, children, primitives, and now they are leaving. What did we expect? Chairman Vexathari clicked his mandibles in annoyance. They will return. They need access to council trade routes. They need our protection. They need us. In the 4th week, human agricultural colonies sent notices to their council trade partners. The contracts were expiring. Humanity would not be renewing them. The colonies that grew food for dozens of council worlds were choosing to sell their products elsewhere. Elsewhere. Rulmoth demanded when he read the notice. Where is elsewhere? Independent systems, his assistant told him. Small species that are not part of the council. The humans are trading with them now. The price of food began to rise, not dramatically, not yet, but the trend was clear. 30% of the council's food supply came from human colonies. Without that food, prices would climb. Some worlds would face shortages. The council sent another delegation to Earth. 5 council members traveled to the human homeworld. They were received with perfect politeness. Human staff served them tea and showed them to comfortable rooms. But every request for a meeting with the government was declined. The Prime Minister is unavailable, they were told. Ambassador Kang Doyen is on medical leave, they were informed. All senior officials are attending a conference in another city, the assistants explained. The delegation stayed for a week. They met with no one important. Finally, they returned to the council and reported their failure. Director Yoon Taeho watched the reports from Earth. He allowed himself a small smile. We are not being rude. We are simply busy. Too busy to see them. How long do we maintain this? Kwon Ji-woo asked. Until they understand, Yoon Taeho replied. We are not making demands. We are not threatening anyone. We are simply stepping back. We are removing ourselves from their system. By the 6th week, human merchant ships stopped using council-protected trade routes. They found their own paths through space, routes that were longer but avoided council checkpoints and fees. This was legal. Any ship could use any route, but the human ships had always used council routes before. Their absence was noticed. Insurance rates for shipping increased. Pirates became bolder. Without the human merchants traveling the routes and reporting problems, security deteriorated. The relay network problems grew worse. What started as minor delays became serious malfunctions. A relay in Sector 4 went completely offline for 6 hours. Trade ships were stranded. Millions of credits were lost. Council engineers insisted they could fix it. They worked for 3 days and got the relay back online, but it was not as efficient as before. Connection times were slower. Data transfers had errors. The engineers promised improvements were coming. Then something unexpected happened. The Dravine, a small species that lived on a desert planet, sent a secret message to Earth. Their water purification systems were failing. Human engineers had built those systems decades ago. Without them, the Dravine would die of thirst within months. The Dravine were council members, but they were not important. The council had not prioritized their request for help. They were running out of time. Earth responded immediately. A human ship arrived at the Dravine homeworld. Engineers came down and repaired the purification systems. They updated the technology and trained local staff. When the Dravine asked about payment, the humans refused. This is a gift, they said. People should not die of thirst because of politics. The humans left. They did not ask the Dravine for anything. They did not involve the council. They just helped and left. News of this spread. Other small species took notice. If humanity would help them directly, maybe they did not need to wait for the council's slow bureaucracy. 7 more species sent quiet messages to Earth. They wanted to establish direct diplomatic relations, not through the council. Direct contact, Earth agreed. Ambassadors were exchanged. Trade deals were signed. A new network was forming, one that did not include the council at all. Chairman Vexthari finally understood that something was wrong. Seriously wrong. How long has it been since we heard from humanity? 8 weeks, his assistant replied. 8 weeks of silence. The chairman felt something he rarely experienced. It might have been worry. It might have been fear. The humans had not said a word. They had not threatened anyone. They had not attacked. They had simply walked away and taken their skills with them, and the galaxy was beginning to crack. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Kang Doyen walked inside, his dark suit pressed perfectly, his face calm. Behind him came Park Ha-jin, the military liaison with a cybernetic arm that gleamed under the bright lights. Choi Isol followed last, carrying a data tablet filled with charts and numbers. They were the human delegation, and today was supposed to be important. The chamber was enormous. It curved upward like the inside of a giant egg, with seats arranged in circles that rose higher and higher. 47 species sat in those seats. Some looked like insects with clicking mandibles. Others had scales that shimmered different colors. A few floated in tanks of liquid, and some looked almost human, but not quite. The air smelled strange, A mix of different atmospheres pumped in to keep everyone alive. At the center sat Chairman Vexithari. He was insectoid, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light in unsettling ways. His chitinous body clicked and scraped against his seat whenever he moved. Next to him sat Rulmoth, a large reptilian creature with cold yellow eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He controlled trade in this part of the galaxy, and everyone knew he was greedy. Kong Doyen took his place at the speaking platform. The platform was lower than the council seats, forcing speakers to look up at their judges. It was designed that way on purpose. The human ambassador knew this, but his expression never changed. Honored Council, Doyen began, his voice steady. Humanity requests full voting privileges. We have served as associate members for 50 years. We believe we have earned the right to participate equally in council decisions. Chairman Vexthari made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Earned? Please continue, Ambassador. Tell us what you think you have earned. Doyen activated his tablet. Holographic images appeared in the air around him. Human engineers built 60% of the hyperspace relay network. Before our involvement, travel between sectors took months. Now it takes days. We asked for no special payment. We did it because it helped everyone. The images changed, showing hospitals and medical facilities. 20 years ago, the Viridian plague threatened to wipe out 12 species. Human doctors worked day and night to find a cure. We lost 300 medical personnel to the disease while searching for the answer. We found it. We shared it freely with everyone. Park Hajin stood silent behind the ambassador, but his cybernetic hand clenched into a fist. He had lost that arm defending a council world from pirates. He remembered. Human soldiers have died protecting council worlds, Doyun continued. We have fought beside you against the Void Marauders. We have built your infrastructure. We have healed your sick. We have asked for little in return. Today we ask for respect. We ask to be treated as equals. The chamber filled with various sounds. Some species made humming noises. Others clicked or hissed. Rulmoth leaned back in his seat and showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. Chairman Vexthari held up one of his 4 hands. The chamber fell silent. You have made your case, Ambassador. The council will now deliberate. Doyen expected this. There would be discussion, maybe a vote. But what happened next was not what he expected. The chairman did not ask for discussion. Instead, he looked directly at Doyun with those strange compound eyes. The council has already decided. We made our decision before you arrived today. Choi Isil felt her stomach drop. This was wrong. That was not how the process worked. Humanity, the chairman said, his voice loud and clear. You are useful, very useful. You build well. You fight adequately. You have clever minds for creatures so young, but you must understand your place. The chamber was completely quiet now. Every species watched. Your species left your home solar system only 200 years ago. 200 years. Some species here have been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. 20,000. You are children. Talented children, yes. Clever children. But children nonetheless. Vexthari stood up from his seat, his forearms spread wide. You may continue serving the council's needs. That is privilege enough. You are like pets who have learned tricks. Very good tricks. But a pet does not sit at the master's table and vote on what the master should do. Someone in the upper seats laughed, then another. Soon dozens of species were making sounds of amusement. Some clicked, some hissed, some made noises humans had no names for. But it was all laughter. They were all laughing at the human delegation. Primitives who left their star system only yesterday, another council member called out. Next they will want to lead us. More laughter. Rulamoth showed all his teeth. Perhaps we should give them a treat for trying. Do humans like treats? The laughter grew louder. Choi Isul felt her face burning. Her hands shook. She wanted to shout at them, to tell them how wrong they were, but she held still. She looked at Ambassador Kang Doyen. Doyen's face had not changed. He stood there calm as a stone in a river, while insults and laughter washed over him. Park Hajin's cybernetic hand was clenched so tight that the metal groaned. A small crack appeared in one of his back teeth from grinding his jaw. Chairman Vexithari sat back down. You may continue your current role, humanity. That is our final decision. Be grateful you are allowed to serve the council at all. You are dismissed. For a long moment nobody moved. The laughter died down. The council members watched the human delegation, waiting to see what they would do. Would they argue? Would they beg? Would they get angry? Ambassador Kang Doyen reached down and closed his tablet. The holographic images disappeared. He turned to look at Choi Isul and Park Hajin. He did not say a word. He simply nodded once. Choi Isul stood up. Park Hajin stood up. They gathered their materials in silence. Then Kang Doyen turned and walked toward the door. His footsteps echoed in the huge chamber. Choi Isul followed him. Park Hajin came last. They did not look back. They did not say anything. They just walked. The doors slid open. The human delegation walked through them. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the chamber, there was confused silence. Then Chairman Vexithari clicked his mandibles. They will be back. Humans always come back. They need us more than we need them, Rulmoth agreed. They will apologize within a week. Maybe sooner. Where else can they go? The council members returned to their business. They had other matters to discuss. The human tantrum was already forgotten. But in the hallway outside, Ambassador Kang Doyen walked with steady steps toward the shuttle bay. He pulled out his communication device and sent a single message back to Earth. It was only 3 words long. Begin the withdrawal. Behind him, Choi Isul and Park Hajin said nothing. There was nothing to say. Words had failed. Now it was time for action. Now it was time to show the Council what humanity was really worth. They would learn. They would all learn. The humans walked away without saying a word. They did not know it yet, but that silence would cost the Council more than any war ever could.